Welcome, everybody, to the Old Gold Show. With you, as always, I'm your host, co-manager over at hammerandrails.com, Andrew Ledman.
And I'm Casey, King of the North, Bartley, Rivals Network, Boiler Upload, in reverse, Boiler Upload on Rivals Network.
It
We're
works
headed
both
north,
ways.
Ledman.
Okay,
I'm
I'm,
taking up
I'm.
65 tomorrow, Mackey North,
You
little
are headed
Chrysler
up.
Center.
You are headed up to Ann Arbor, Michigan, as the Purdue Boilermakers travel to Michigan for the return game against the Michigan Wolverines. You'll remember Purdue put an absolute butt whooping on them earlier in the season, a 27-point victory, I believe 91-64, if my memory serves. So we're going to talk about that in the second half, but we had a game, Purdue versus USC, as we said right before we started recording, Casey. Not exactly the most exciting game. Purdue in control from start to finish. 90-72 is your final. Overall, nothing too incredible coming out of this one, other than the fact that Trey Kaufman-Renn probably would have gotten a 30 piece if he hadn't been pulled because Purdue was ahead.
Braden Smith would have got a double-double if he didn't miss a free throw.
Sure, there's that too.
Our hypothetical lives are all better than our actual ones, Ledman.
That is true. The grass is always greener on the other side.
I do think it's worth noting that I mean Braden Smith's getting a lot of talk for obviously stepping up his play. He is now firmly back in the conversation for player of the year, third place behind, Auburn star and Cooper Flag. But it's remiss to note that like Trey Kaufman-Renn has been every bit as good as Braden, maybe as impactful. Just his ability to go get a
Yeah.
bucket at any time. He's a mismatch. He is super efficient down low, making over 60% of his shots. Just he has been the best case scenario of, and like there are, if you're talking like reasons why to pay attention to local reporters, Trey Kaufman-Renn, we get to the Alabama game and Nate Oates is like, didn't know
Yeah.
Trey was good.
Didn't know he was
Just
that good.
shocked he got the ball. I didn't know. And like there are guys like, I think we were both big Trey Kaufman-Renn fans. Buller in the stands guys were Kaufman-Renn fans.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a surprise that the offense was going to shift to Trey. I don't know if any of us saw how good he would be in the pick and roll, especially with
Yeah,
the
I,
floater and the
I
short
mean,
roll.
I think we all thought he was going to be good. We saw what he could do, but it is difficult to project what you're going to be when you're playing alongside a guy like Zach Edey, and you basically have to defer to him for so long. You know, you Trey is an incredibly talented player, so when you remove that impediment for him that was Zach Edey, he really has been able to shine more this year. But yeah, that Nate Oates quote was just shocking. Just you are the head coach and you're playing this team and I didn't know he was that good.
Didn't didn't see it coming.
What are you doing?
Didn't know they'd give him the ball. Yeah, I talked to PJ Thompson about Trey a little bit last week, and he had a good quote for me that he was just like, "There's no other player you want to coach." I actually have it pulled up exactly. He maintained a confidence and belief. He knew who he was now, even when necessarily he wasn't that, but he always believed it. Just Trey being able to always think he was this player, even when he didn't get the chance, and that's
Yeah.
something that Purdue's offense has leaned on a ton. Um, Close games to have. I think we'll talk a little more about the Big Ten later, but I think
Yeah.
the more the conversations happen and everyone nationally is all like, "Who's Purdue's third scorer? They're never going to win it all without a third scorer." I don't know who the first scorer is on a lot of these Big Ten
Yeah.
teams.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
I
Michigan State comes to mind.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, it's Jace Richardson who just
Well,
came off
yeah,
the bench,
lately. Lately.
and he needed like diarrhea for him to play. Someone else's diarrhea.
Oh, I guess I missed that part of the story.
Jeremy Fears didn't play with a stomach bug. We all know what stomach bug means,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, I guess that's true. That's true.
Like if you're missing a college basketball game because your stomach's a little wobbly, it's probably real wobbly.
Yeah,
Like
that's
they've
true.
got like
Yeah.
IVs and like stuff. Like they can make you right if you just feel a little off. Like they got better stuff than Pepto Bismol up in East Lansing.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you're gonna do the Paul Pierce, and
Yeah.
have the
Oh.
accident on the court and have to take a
Mm,
wheelchair off, you
yeah.
don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. So, I mean, this game against USC, I don't think we really learned a whole lot. Um, about anything other than, you talked about Trey Kaufman-Renn. You know what we learned this last week? Trey Kaufman-Renn, not a good power forward, not a good center. That's what we learned from the national discourse and the big awards, whether it be the Karl Malone Power Forward Award or the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Center Award. Trey Kaufman-Renn not amongst them. And I thought Painter had a great quote about that when he was asked about it by, I believe, Sam King. In the post game press conference. So I would definitely recommend you to go to the Boiler Upload YouTube channel and find that answer, as I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
But Casey, what did you think of Trey being left off of that, and also how both Trey, Braden, and Matt Painter handled that?
Yeah, I mean, Braden's quote probably should have been my nickname. We're back to the same BS.
Yeah,
Because, like, that is the right. Because we were here last year with Braden Smith.
yeah, left off the
Maybe,
Koozie Award.
yeah, maybe less egregiously. Um, if you just consider everything last year. I mean, I think we were both confirmed that Braden Smith was absolutely a top 10 point guard, but like, there was enough last year where you could kind of talk yourself into like, well, maybe he's not there yet. But like Trey is doing efficiency things, scoring inside, moving the ball in ways that like no one else in the country is doing. And when you consider that you could tap him in at either position, you're literally saying he's not one of the top 20. And I it blows my mind the lack of I just don't understand. Purdue's ranked number 7 in the country.
Correct.
And for a good part of the season, Braden Smith was not all that respected.
Yeah,
So where does the respect go? Like, and Matt Painter's not winning coaches of the year, so he
no,
can't be that good. So just like where I don't understand the dichotomy between like Purdue's success and the belief in them as a program, but the lack of belief in their players.
it is
It's
strange.
I don't like it just doesn't make sense. It's like because they're not flashy in a certain way. They're just like,
Yeah,
well, they just can't be this. But like you watch Trey play. I don't know of many big men who move as well as he does. Some of those fit like if you're talking something that came up from the USC game is how aggressive and just quick burst quick he is
yeah.
in the paint when he catches the ball. And like you're not guarding that. There's not a guy in the country that's guarding that inside there. And to not get even just all we're talking like top 10.
Yeah. We're
Like and
not
to
saying he needs
watch
to
this.
win it.
Yeah.
Just get, put it on there. And I wonder how much of his aggressiveness in that game against USC, and I'm sure he would tell you it wasn't had anything to do with it, but I'm sure
Hold
maybe a
on. Did
little
you hear
bit.
his quotes after the game?
Yes, I
Or
did.
in practice, he's like, I didn't know that was a thing.
And listen, I'm not saying he was lying.
It's
I'm
not a
not saying that in
shtick.
any way. But I'm saying when someone tells you, because he found out, he's not on these watch lists. I'm not saying he's out there like hunting the lists and has like a Google alert or anything. But when
Braden
you
does.
get told, when you get told you're not top 20 at your position or the other position that you also play, because I mean, he does, vacillate back and forth. But that's got to get you just a little bit. I mean, these are competitive guys. These are guys who they may not be in it for individual awards. They want to win. That's their number one goal. But that's got to get to you a little bit. And so you got to kind of a little bit of a chip on your shoulder when you hear that. And like you said, Braden Smith certainly does that.
Yeah. I legitimately do not think it registers with
It's
Kaufman.
amazing that they're so different.
Yeah. Oh my God. I part of my worry going into the season was like how different Trey is compared to like Fletcher and Braden. Um, in just a way where like he's literally a philosophy major.
Right.
He just happens to be 6'9" and like really coordinated. Um, and sometimes you just like you don't know how it's gonna mesh because like Braden's a ultra competitive guy,
Yeah.
and Trey is like I'm already like 8 steps past thinking and reacting to this thing. So like, but yeah, it's obviously worked. They have maybe the best chemistry in the country. They probably have the best chemistry in the country. Fair to say.
Hard to argue.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it's wild. Trey obviously deserves it. It'll probably if he keeps up the play that he's doing right now, which is pretty much like 20, 26 and 3 every night on 65% shooting. It might be a Braden Smith thing where he gets named to the final five at the end of the
Right.
season once again. And but yeah, I think Painter's quote was what? These aren't basketball guys deciding it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is weird because you would consider if you're on like the board or whatever the hell of a basketball award,
You would be a basket. I mean,
basketball guy.
honestly, like I know the people put out these watch lists. I don't think anyone can really, gun to your head. Could you name anybody who makes these decisions? No.
Let's make it
I
public.
certainly can't. Yeah, I mean they
Let's give him
should.
a
I'm
talk
sure
show.
it probably is. It's probably out there somewhere. I just don't know where it is. And
I don't
quite
know.
frankly, I don't have the concern to go out there and look for it.
I
Um,
see. I think they protect their guys. Some of the stuff like that because it's
oh,
very
just
like,
like
eh,
yeah.
we'll keep the secret.
Yeah, it's like the Hollywood Foreign Press that used to do the Golden
Exactly.
Globes. We don't know who they were. They just give out awards. You know
So
what I'm
like,
talking about.
so like the Illuminati.
Yes, it's exactly like the Illuminati. Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's the game against USC. We're going to take our break, come back, talk about the game coming up against Michigan, as well as a look around the Big Ten Conference. We'll be right back. And we are back. So, the Purdue Boilermakers and our very own Casey Bartley heading up to Ann Arbor on Tuesday, February 11th. Yep, up, directly up. That north is up.
Little
So
to the
we'll
right.
go. Yeah. So we'll go that direction to head up to Ann Arbor. Purdue takes on Michigan. This is the second meeting of these two this year. As we said in the first half of the pod, Purdue won by 27 in that first game, 91 to 64. Michigan
Wasn't even
obviously is
that
an
close.
interesting team, brand new coach. No. Oh no, I mean it was a beatdown. Michigan, though, is an interesting team. They've got a brand new coach, more or less a reconstituted roster. And Casey, they play an interesting style of ball because they go with the two bigs. Didn't seem to give Purdue a problem in game one. What do you think we can look for in game two? Has Michigan changed anything from when these two previously met?
As Trey Kaufman-Renn said after the game, I don't know why it gave other teams problems. We just switched it.
Right.
After
Talking
calling
about the
Umar
two
Ball,
big lineup for
right,
Michigan.
right, and then he called Umar Ballo a big fella the next game. Kaufman, like it's funny. Which, to be fair, like Trey specifically like mentioned that the next time that I talked to him, he's like, "By the way, I didn't know who would come to me, but I just want to apologize. I said the wrong words. I didn't mean to suggest that Ballo's fat. I meant to say he
No.
is very big and powerful.
What? I mean, he's
Yeah,
wide.
yeah.
Like,
So
ooh, he's a beefy dude.
I I think he might beat Michigan State single handedly tomorrow. Just for a,
I don't think so.
I don't know if you've watched Michigan State's bigs, but they suck.
Well, sure, but Ballo, I think, is inconsistent.
Well, I think he's going to have one of his high games.
Okay, well,
Just a
we'll look for
thing,
that.
just a little side thing I'm tossing out there.
All
Little
right, that's
little
fair.
upset watch. As for Michigan, yeah, I Purdue's benefited by obviously having two guys that are switchable. Trey and Caleb both are able to
Yeah,
defend on the perimeter, able to defend inside. And if you're comfortable doing that and you're switching already, that does take away some of the novelty of what Michigan tries to do. I think there's two things that you look at when you're talking about such a wide margin. First of all, Michigan shot 6 of 29 from three. That's very bad. They are not
yes,
that poor of a shooting team. And then you're talking about 22 turnovers. High turnover team. Danny Wolf,
they
high
are.
turnover player. That's his one red flag. and that's something Purdue is doing at like a top 10 level of the nation since the year
About the new year.
2025.
Yeah.
So those are obviously like things that Purdue caused, not by accident. Didn't just happen. Like they do that.
Hmm.
But you're talking about coming home, playing in your arena. In theory,
You looked at
uh,
ticket prices for this Michigan game?
that's what I'm going to say. Hey, Michigan people, if you're here, if you're curious, if you wanted to see what the enemy's thoughts about your game and program is, come close. Show up, okay? You have the number 7 team in the country coming to town. You guys both have 2 losses. You're at the top of the Big Ten Conference. You sell out that arena, okay? Everyone shows up. It's a Tuesday night. You have nothing better to do. It's freaking cold. Go to
Very
the
cold.
game, support the program.
I
Be
can
like,
I'm pulling up tickets right now. Just it is currently 8:38 p.m. on the 10th. I can get lower level seats right now for under $100. I can get upper level seats for $16.
it's not a good sign. Last year, obviously, it was a weekend game, but it's one of the weirdest spectacles I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, $13. I can
Oh
get
my
a
God.
I can get one ticket for $13 in the upper level.
It's obviously a little harder for Lafayette people to travel on a Tuesday night. Ann Arbor is about 4 hours away,
Sure.
but like
Hmm.
there are Purdue fans up north. There are Purdue. Every time I think about Michigan, I think Chicago's closer than it is. So I'm like, oh, Chicago, come over. It's still like 3 hours, 4 hours. Geography doesn't make sense. They're both north, but like they're separated by like a lake, you know?
Yes. Famously.
Yeah, big
Famously.
lake. But
Lake
I'm just,
Michigan. You might have heard of
yeah,
it.
just like be good sports fans. Like support your program. You brought this new coach
Yeah,
in
it's not
to
right.
rejuvenate your program. I don't want to just hear about you online. I don't want to see like Michigan media is great. I love that. There's some Michigan fans on Twitter. I'm happy for you. Show up to the freaking ball games. You fill that dumb football stadium with like 120,000 people. Just get like
Yeah.
10% of them. 10% of that interest for a top 20 team that's leading the goddamn conference with a brand new
Whoa, whoa,
coach.
whoa. Hey, hey, hey.
I'm sorry, but it makes me mad. You guys want good things and then you don't appreciate it. And I'm tired. You're in the Big Ten, okay?
They are.
Northwestern can sell out their sorry stadium.
Yeah.
Like, do something,
And
Michigan
they got
fans.
players dropping like flies.
Yeah, do something. Show some heart. And if not, you know what? I hope Dusty May does leave you. I hope he walks all the way down to Bloomington and goes to IU. They have problems of their own, but at least they show up.
Whoa,
Like,
whoa, hey.
be better.
They don't always show up, which
They'll show up for
it's
Purdue.
side quest here.
They show up more than Michigan.
Did you see that stupid tweet from Aaron Torres?
I don't. He's been blocked for a very long time.
It Well, he was the guy who you recall last
Oh,
year
I know who
was
he is.
I'm talking to everyone listening.
Yeah. All right.
He is the guy last year who constantly just crapped on Purdue and crapped on Zach Edey
Well,
and
he turned out
said
to be
that,
right. So I
oh
was
yes,
right. He
yeah,
didn't.
not like we went to the national title game.
Yeah.
He tweeted on the 8th, Indiana is 14-9, have lost 4 straight, 6 of 7, and their coach just retired / resigned. And there still isn't an empty seat at Assembly Hall today. Can't lie, I hope Indiana nails this coaching hire. No fan base deserves a winner and fun team to watch more than IU does.
All right. I'm out on
Which,
IU.
first of all, I trash just in general.
Mhm.
But then he included a picture, and you're like, oh, okay. You look at the picture. You remember who IU played in this game?
Their last game?
Michigan.
Yeah,
Yes,
Michigan.
Michigan. What are Michigan's colors? Maize and blue. You look at the
It's true.
picture, they're clearly playing Minnesota. And everyone
Just
below
yellow
him is
everywhere.
like, everyone below him is like, the whole balcony is empty, man. Here's a picture of it. And the picture of that game with Michigan fans, Michigan logo on the scoreboard, everything. And you're
Oh.
why are we caping for whole programs here? I just don't understand it. I don't know. That just really annoyed me, and he's one of my least favorite, and I think
Human beings.
uh, no, I don't know him as a human being.
Okay.
As a
I can
pundit,
guess.
I just think
I can
he did
guess.
sit like two rows in front of me at the Final Four, and
Ooh,
I
that's
was
right.
like, oh, that's that guy.
Spitwads. Did you hit him with
Yeah,
spit?
constantly, constantly.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, we don't need to be caping for programs. You do what you need to do. Michigan really struggling right now to fill their arena, and so is IU. We don't have to pretend it's not true for both of them. So,
Yeah,
Casey, do you think
we only cape for cons.
exactly, exactly? Um, do you think this Michigan team is going to do anything differently, or are we going to see kind of a similar showdown to what we saw in Mackey Arena earlier this year?
Well, they did bench Roddy Gale. And if you're talking about like lowering turnovers, that's a good place to start. He has played some bizarre basketball in the last few weeks. Um, in general, I I think if you're Michigan, you probably want to get Golden a little more involved inside without involving Danny Wolf straight up as much, because I think Golden is a very big presence inside. Purdue still doesn't have like a great interior defender, certainly not one on one.
Yeah,
And I think you bring a little less tumultuous turnover plays when you try to do that. I think it'd be good to get that just kind of settled in early. I don't expect them to shoot 20% from three. I don't expect them to turn the ball over 22 times. Those are like the high end of their bad variance play. So
sure. Yeah.
even like halfway back to normal on both of those, and you're talking a 10-point game, then you're at home. Um, One thing is Purdue hasn't like shot the ball well on the road or at
Mm-mm.
home really. So it's if you can hold
Not
that,
since that Nebraska game where they just
yeah,
went absolutely off from three.
yeah. I think the one thing I look at rewatching, looking back at that game is just it was very evident from the tip that Braden Smith could do, would do whatever he wanted against Michigan. They had no answer for him. He was getting inside, he was getting to his jumper. He was 0 or 4 from 3 and still had 24 points and 10 assists.
Yeah,
Um, God forbid he knocked down some three-pointers. I just don't think they have a guy and they don't really have bigs that are going to be able to help. And I think when you're looking at that with Braden, the way he plays and the way he's able to dissect teams, if you can't get to him, like anytime Purdue has struggled this year, it started with being able to limit what Braden wanted to do. And if you can't do that, Michigan doesn't have an answer for that. I don't I don't think this game is not going to be a 27-point blowout, but like Purdue will control it in that on the road that looks more probably like an 8-point win.
yeah. I
But
think that. I mean, I think that tracks. I,
yeah.
I, I think your point about not being able to stop Braden Smith is accurate because he truly is as they say, the straw that stirs the drink. Uh,
Ooh.
so as he goes, so often goes this Purdue team, and just it doesn't seem like Michigan has a guy who can really slow him down, let alone stop him. And you add into that the improvement from C.J. Cox, Jakari Harris is better than he was. Caleb First continues to improve. I think it's just they're going to give Michigan some trouble, and if Purdue can find their shot, it'll I think be more than that 8 to 10 point victory you were talking about. But anything else on Michigan before we look around the Big Ten?
Mm, no,
All
I
right.
don't think so. I Number one task is going to be slow it down to Mari Burnett. I think he's gotten going the last few games for Michigan. And if he's making shots, it's a much more dangerous team.
Yeah, yeah. So now a look around the Big Ten Conference. Last time we spoke with you, Michigan State was undefeated in the conference. They were sitting at 10 and 0. I assume they went on their West Coast trip and everything went fine. Is that right, Casey?
Went great. Um,
Or they were
Anytime that
9
you
and 0.
can
Not they were 9 and 0.
get 9-0 in the conference. Um, Yeah, it was USC loss was surprising.
Yes,
UCLA loss was painful to
less
watch.
surprising.
Yeah, less surprising. Like UCLA might be the best team in the Big Ten. Like I I don't think they are. You could make an argument they are playing better than anyone else. They've won six straight. Um, they've got some good wins. They are the best defensive team in the conference, one of the best in the country. So like it's not a shame to lose at them at home, but the game really showed. And the reason why I don't think UCLA is the best team in the conference is you watch UCLA and Michigan State play in crunch time minutes, and neither team had a go-to option.
Yeah,
Neither team knew where to find points. It was a pretty lucky last second floater off the backboard that put UCLA above Michigan State. But yeah, I think when you put a lot of these teams in the grinder and they don't have great answers. Weirdly, some of the bottom teams in the Big Ten have better answers.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Rutgers, Penn State has a couple of guys. Even Minnesota. When push comes to shove. I mean,
I'm
they're
anti
not
Daniel
good.
Garcia, so like
Okay.
there's no
I
talking to
mean,
me about that. Yeah.
sure. All right. I mean, it's not important. They're, third from
Illinois,
the
who's
bottom.
like mid pack in the Big Ten, they've got go to guys.
Well, when their team's healthy, sure.
Yeah.
So looking at the top half of the Big Ten, we've got Purdue at 11-2, Michigan and Michigan State both at 10-2, Wisconsin 9-4, UCLA 9-4, and then really Maryland is playing pretty good basketball, but they sit at just 8-5. Purdue was, I think, lucky to take them on at home only this season and come away with a victory there. They really pushed Purdue to the limit in that one, but Michigan State lost two of their last three, almost lost to Oregon until Oregon collapsed in the second half. That would have been great for the Boilermakers. And then Michigan almost lost to IU until IU collapsed. So, no one is really doing Purdue any favors with those top two, Michigan, Michigan State. But they do have to play each other twice. They got a home and home uh, later on throughout this year. So there's going to be two losses at least in those games, but we'll see. Um, Casey, who is standing out to you across the Big Ten? You notice we didn't mention Indiana toward the top of that conference there. Now they're sitting at 5-8 in the league, and they're soon going to be coachless.
I just let's tiny rant on
Okay.
whatever the hell this Mike Woodson era has been. Uh, Be a bad coach. That's fine. Be a I, be a steward for a not great program. That's fine. You are a college basketball head coach. You owe it to your fans, your players, the general college basketball landscape to explain yourself or your program. When you come out with a statement saying, oh, yeah, he's decided to step down, but he's not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it. No questions.
Oh yeah, it's weird.
We're gonna go into you can't ask me about something. That's how we're gonna do this entire conference. What are we doing? Like Mike Woodson from day one has wanted his cake and wanted to eat it too. He's an NBA guy that's treated a college basketball gig like an NBA gig. They're not all adults in the room. You're not you're not teaching, you're not coaching adults. You're not handling a NBA product. The
No.
fan base deserves better. They are tied into the
Do they?
community.
Do they?
I mean, if you want to ostracize a whole people based on where they said they would graduate if they went to college, that's
Did
fine.
not see that coming. Did not see that coming.
Like
No,
that's
that was
fine.
good. That
Like
was
if you
good.
want to do that, that's fine. But like obviously IU fans have a problem. There's an issue with what they think they are and what they are. That's fine. But like Ron Woodson has made it worse, way worse.
Rod Woodson?
Right, whatever. Mike. Rod Woodson's awesome. That's where I want
Yeah,
to.
I don't
Rod
think
Woodson's
he'd be a
awesome.
very
Yeah,
good
no.
basketball
So
coach for IU, though.
yeah, well, it could do worse. I just like it's just so embarrassing. Like, what is the point of taking like a 70-year-old head coach who's not a big enough guy to handle like tough questions for
He does seem
problems
to
he
have very
created?
thin skin.
Yeah, like and just like a general lack of accountability. Just well, Rice was supposed to call a timeout. You watch the replay and Mike is waving him on. Like Woodson waving him up the court. I don't, and like,
Also, coaches can call timeouts.
yeah, no, the referee was gone. He went to the locker room. He
Yeah.
was too far away.
It,
He was
and
out
I
of
mean, what
minutes.
was it?
He couldn't
The,
call
the
collects
last
anymore.
game, the last game against Wisconsin, they got jumped out to like a 24-6 opener or 26-4 or
Yeah,
something outrageous like that. And he's like,
yeah,
well, we just weren't ready. It's
yeah, not good.
okay.
Yeah, just like a total lack of responsibility, and then to like, yeah, add on to it and just like don't ask me about it. Like, I've acknowledged I need to step down from this program, but we don't need to talk about it. I don't need to explain why or why I'm not
I do
stepping down
wonder how much
now.
of this was him.
Yeah, I don't know if it was
Like,
him
did he
or
really,
program.
yeah, did he really step down or did someone, the AD, come in and be like, look, you can step down
Well,
or we
yeah,
can
sure.
fire you, you know?
Sure.
Like, I don't know what it was, but
All I know is when things got the toughest for Matt Painter, the darkest time in Purdue's program, number 16 seed to number 1 seed. I'll never forget it. I'm sitting there watching a press conference that no one wants to be at.
no.
No local guys want to be there. None of the players want to be there. And NCAA tournament said, "Hey, that's enough. You can leave." And Matt goes, "No, you have a question? You have a question?" Made sure every question was asked and answered.
That's tough.
Some guys cause a fire and walk away. Some guys, when they see a fire, they walk in it. That's it. I'm
All right, there's your rant. All
that's it.
right. You know, there's some rumblings. There's some rumblings that IU is going to try to get Matt Painter to be their head coach.
Yeah.
That was an actual article someone wrote and threw Matt Painter's name. I was like, oh, kudos, Mr. Troll. Like, well done. I mean, I know you're doing it for the clicks, but that, like,
Just for the
chef's
clout.
kiss. Um, so looking at the top teams in the Big Ten, I mean, we know what Purdue has in front of them. We know they've got some tough games. Got to go to Michigan, got to go to Michigan State, and go to Illinois. Now they've got two additional home games after that. So who do you think, other than Purdue, has the best shot of closing this thing out and getting themselves a Big Ten title?
I mean, when you have the 2 game gap, like it's the 3 teams on top until it's not.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
and if you're talking, I don't think Michigan takes care of the ball enough. And I don't think their defense is as good as their numbers suggest. If you're talking just best teams, I think it's Purdue and Michigan State. And if this Jace
Even
Richardson's
though you've been kind of down on
Big Ten's
Michigan
a
State this whole podcast,
yeah, Big Ten's a bad conference, Ledman. It's not that good.
you've been
If
riding that train for about
yeah,
5 years.
yeah.
You're the
Jace
conductor on that
Richardson,
one.
like Jace Richardson showed some things. 29 points. I don't think his 3-point shooting is gonna like consistently carry, especially with the shots he's getting. But he is a
Michigan
dynamic
State
scorer.
just can't shoot the ball.
No, and like it's really hard to trust that. And you're talking like, do you believe like because Michigan State has to go to Illinois, to Michigan, to Maryland, and host Michigan one more time. Like you did
Yep.
pretty good if you went 2-2 in those. But
Yep.
that's kind of the case with every team. And so are we
Yeah. I
talking,
mean, the top teams have a lot of hard games left. Everybody does.
Yeah. So are we? UCLA might have the easiest stretch, but they have to come into Mackey Arena. They're
Yeah,
going
and
into
well, and
Illinois.
and to
They're
your
going
point
into
from
Illinois
earlier,
Tuesday night.
yeah, I mean to your point earlier, they're already at 4 losses. So even if they have an
Yeah.
easier path, they still have to, basically run the table.
Yeah. I would right now, 4 losses feels like a tie and or win the conference outright.
Yeah.
And when you label it that way, Michigan State seems like the most likely. Um, I
You
think there's a
still you still think that?
so here's the thing. I like their matchup against Michigan just because I think they can really get at those ball handlers. I think they can suffocate those guards. And if Purdue is able to collapse Michigan's guards the way they did, Michigan State can do that. They can get to Wolf, they can get to the dribbles. So if you sweep Michigan as Michigan State, you're kind of playing with house money. You get a host Purdue. You're still talking some tough games. But like I say, if you go 2-2, 3-1 on that stretch, maybe lose to Illinois on the road, you're standing there at the 4 losses. So
So
I feel like it's Purdue and Michigan State.
since the conference went to 20 conference games in 2019, the worst record, granted, in 2021, it was the weird, not full season. So the winner of the league in that year was Michigan, and they were 14-3. So kind of throwing that out just because it's kind of an outlier. The worst record for a champion since they've moved to 20 games is 14-6. And that was 2020 when Maryland, Michigan State, and Wisconsin all were 14-6. Um, Everybody else has had, 5 or fewer
Okay.
losses. So, I mean, 4 doesn't seem unreasonable to be your champion there. It kind of tracks with the history of the 20 game conference season.
Yeah, it's just there's not it's so weird the way the schedule broke out because there's just not out of those three, none of them have a schedule that you look at and you're just like, they're gonna run the table. When you look at the schedule for every team, it's just hard to picture any of it being clean. Michigan's gets to host Purdue, then they have to go Ohio State. Then they've got Michigan State twice, and then Illinois and Maryland at home are not easy games. That's tough. Michigan, we gotta pull it
No,
here. Yeah, Purdue's has to go to Michigan. They do get a host Wisconsin. Then they go to Michigan State, get UCLA at home, and go to Illinois.
true.
That's probably the easiest remaining schedule out of those because
And go to
Michigan's
IU. I mean,
yeah, yeah, because IU's going to play tough there. They played tough
yeah,
at
I mean,
Mackey.
exactly. Yeah. So Purdue really does have a tough schedule going forward. And what you just pointed out, I mean, Michigan State and Michigan both do as well. So if you're Purdue, you would really, really love to have either the Penn State loss or the Ohio State loss at home back. You would love to have that little bit of extra cushion, but unfortunately, that's not how it came out. And now we've got a we got a tight race as we head down the final stretch here of the Big Ten. So, anything else you want to talk about with the Big Ten conference or any
I
team in the Big Ten?
I like. I think Purdue, if they beat Michigan, they win the Big Ten.
Okay,
The way
bold.
the schedule
I
breaks
like it.
out, I don't think Purdue will get worse than 4 losses if they beat Michigan. And
Okay.
I think 3 losses is definitely like viable because then you're
Oh
talking
yeah,
maybe just lose the Michigan State game. Obviously, the Illinois game will be tough as well on the road,
yeah,
but you would rather play Illinois and Indiana on the road than have to go to Michigan or Michigan State. And that's what both the Michigan teams have to deal with.
sure, sure.
And then not playing Maryland again, like you said, is a break,
Yeah,
particularly with how they're playing now.
not having to go to
And
UCLA.
not going to UCLA big time. I mean, mostly like I think UCLA is good, and I think they do stuff that could give Purdue some problems. But they've also got big guys that Braden can attack, and then apparently it's very tough to travel east. I've heard.
Yeah,
I've heard it's hard.
seems that way. So everybody goes out there and struggles a little bit. Purdue did not. Purdue went
Yeah.
2-0 when they went west. But we'll see how UCLA does when they come east to
I
Mac here.
yeah. I I think there's like a possibility. Like I said, I kind of feel like IU is gonna have one game this year, like one game where they play like they could. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Michigan State and Michigan in tomorrow with three losses, and Purdue is
That I
all
mean,
alone.
for those who aren't familiar with the schedule, that would mean that would mean Purdue beats Michigan and IU beats Michigan State. So, hey, you're out on that island, and sometimes you got to go out there. I
I
appreciate that.
I think Ballo is a mismatch for Michigan State. I think Michigan
I
State's
think Balo's a
bigs.
mismatch for most people.
Yeah,
He's good.
yeah, and I'm just like, and you're not. IU struggles playing against people with spacing, and then obviously they struggle to space on their own because they put a roster together where their best players can't play together.
Right. Which
But you're
is
not,
brilliant.
yeah, you're probably not allowed to ask about that either.
No, no.
I
I
haven't
mean,
read the
it's
memo.
too tough a question.
Too tough.
Yeah.
Too hard.
All right. So there's your look at the Big Ten. Casey, we talked about it on the last episode. I want to give you a moment. What did you think of the Royal Rumble? What did you think of the two winners, Jay Uso and Charlotte Flair? Go.
I feel like my guess of Sami Zayn was closer to Jey Uso than your guess.
Sure. Sure.
Really fun. I wish I would have went. I didn't go. The seats I was looking at, I heard that you really couldn't see the ring from there. So like,
Sure.
I didn't feel like spending $800.
Yeah, so my brother and his friend got tickets. They got them early, like right when they went on sale. So they got them for like 100 some bucks, I believe. But they didn't like their seats. But there's a whole standing room only section that you could go down
Oh,
to. So they left their seats after I think maybe the tag team match, and went down there and watched it from down there, which was much better. But now, we got the road to WrestleMania. Charlotte Flair, you knew she was going to win as soon as they announced basically that she was coming back. Um, does Jay take Gunther or does he go
yeah, Gunther.
with
Got it.
Cody Rhodes?
Yeah, he won because he's the one guy that would take
Makes
Gunther and
sense.
leave Cody Rhodes available for John Cena.
Well, Casey, I guess we'll see in the Elimination Chamber, and then we'll be fully on the road to WrestleMania. Now, back to Purdue basketball. Casey will be there in Ann Arbor tomorrow. We will report back what happens. If Casey's right on Michigan State being Purdue,